So I want to say welcome to the course and to invite you all into the discussion, the engagement with the question, um, what is authentic preaching? What does it mean to have an authentic voice? It's very ironic, I think, in this political season, that very question is being bandied about. Who is authentic and who is not? What does authenticity mean? And how do we recognize it? In some ways, I believe that that is what um, the church is seeking, the traditional church even. But I think that our institutions are searching for authenticity and need leaders who represent that voice. When I think about it, I think about being real, having integrity, being truthful, certainly those things. Um, Having congruence. Whenever I'm watching a preacher, I'm looking for the fact that what they're saying comes out of something that is really true. They're not just saying it, how do I want to say it, from the head up, but it's coming out of something very real and very deep. Um, David Bohm, one of the authors that we'll be working with, talks about um, authenticity, and he uses the language of congruence, congruence between who we are and what we say. Um, you can get the on dialogue portion of the book online, but I do recommend this little volume. It has all of his collected work. For those of you all who are pursuing ministries outside the church, whether it's in justice and peacemaking or chaplaincy or any other setting, I think that David Bohm's work will be beneficial to you then. But I really want to know what you think about authenticity. Obviously, you've signed up for this course, so you may have some interest. It may be a requirement. But is it important to you? And if so, why is it important to you? And if it's not primary, where does it fit in those categories of things that are important? And ultimately, I think the question is always, what is at stake when we talk about integrity? What do we risk? So I think that those are the questions I hope that you'll keep uppermost in these 10 weeks. In my spiritual path, one of the ways that we get at a positive like authenticity is asking the question, what are the obstacles? What gets in the way? What makes it so hard? And so that is the way that we're going to begin to look at authenticity. And I do think that Hamid Ali, who goes under the pen name of A.H. Almas, is going to help us with in unfolding now. You'll be using this text weeks 4 to 10 as you begin to see kind of what's really real in your own experience. Of course, most importantly, the Enneagram is the tool that we're going to use to begin to discern what's real in us and what is personality. That's not to say that our personality isn't real. It certainly is a real part of us. But as we begin to look at our personality, we begin to see what gets in the way of our being right here, who we are. the text that you'll be using that is most comprehensive is called Wisdom of the Enneagram. This is by my teachers, Richard Rizzo and Russ Hudson. They, Don Rizzo, sorry, and they are the ones that are my teachers. There are many denominations of the Enneagram, schools of the Enneagram, as you might either know or discover. We're going to use that text as our primary one in these first 3 weeks. I've also included Sandra Maitre's book on the spiritual dimension of the Enneagram. The reason I'm including Sandra's, I took it from the recommended list to the required list, is because she gets at this material in such a powerfully spiritual way, and I think that her work will serve you well in your own discoveries. When you're preaching on you'll preach at the gathering days, and you're going to preach on a character, a biblical character who represents your type. And these 2 books I just put on the recommended list because they are the ones that have the direct material about biblical characters, so they might be useful to you then, or you can borrow or share or talk with each other about that book. But of course, this is a preaching course. It's practical theology. We will be exegeting the preacher. That's kind of the work that we're and the lens through which we're looking at preaching for this course. But what I want more than anything is for you all who are not regular preachers, who may have never preached a sermon before, to be able to confidently construct a sermon, preach it in a reasonably effective way. Some of you, of course, are traditional students in traditional Christian settings. Some of you are non-traditional students, and I hope that, so your sermons are going to vary, your content is going to vary, but I want you all to understand the importance of preaching in the world, and to gain some skill and facility in being able to do that. The best book that I've found lately is Laurie Carroll's book, Preaching That Matters. You will be using this text through weeks 4 to 10. You'll be reading a chapter each week, and she uses a practice called reflective practice so that you can kind of work on some of the material that she's presenting. Disagree, agree, put your own stamp on the way that you're taking that material in, so that you'll be doing a reflective practice exercise along with an exercise in Unfolding Now each week. For those of you all who are non-traditional students, a good resource in your recommended list is Thematic Preaching. This was written by 2 UU pastors or Unitarian Universalist pastors about thematic preaching. And so I think that will be an excellent resource for those of you all who are outside of the traditional Christian way of thinking. Overhearing the Gospel, Fred Craddock's book, is, in my mind, a theology of preaching. So it grounds us in what is the orientation that we have to this enterprise in our lives. And finally, Birthing the Sermon, I hope will give all of you all an opportunity. It's written by women, not just for women, but it entails what is the real process of real people, in this case real women, who are grappling with preaching and the preaching enterprise. So I think that may be fruitful. Students in the past have really appreciated that collection of essays. I want to say too that this course is yours to discover, to work in whatever way feels most meaningful to you. I welcome your questions. In fact, questions, I think, well-stated questions can take us right to the heart of the matter. And so I encourage you to ask them in small groups, in your large group. Ask questions of me. I'll be posing them to you as a way to continue the conversation. And so I invite you all to be part of this conversation. I look forward to learning from you and welcome our engagement over these 10 weeks. Thank you.